Good afternoon to you. It's 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Taking your calls today, getting your reaction to the big election. Connor is calling in right now from Huntsville, line 1. Hello, Connor. You've been waiting patiently. Thank you for that. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Thanks for taking my call. I'm going to try and make a couple of quick points.
Sure.
I think both of the parties are going to have to undergo some realignment. On the Democrat side, they got to figure out what they're going to do with Obama and the squad because they are polarizing. They don't speak the language that won Trump the presidency.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I think the Republicans are going to have to get away from the ideologues. You ask somebody what a conservative is, they want to know, okay, is it you're a social conservative? Are you a Christian conservative? Are you a fiscal conservative? Trump has brought a pragmatic populism that speaks to a whole lot more people. And if Republicans don't begin to coalesce around that philosophy, because I think that what Trump brings allows people to focus on family, community, and country.
You're so right.
And you can do that under the auspices of a Christian, but that's what you do in your house. That's what you do in your church. That's what you do with your family. But if they don't coalesce around that new idea, they're going to quickly blow up this new coalition that Trump is beginning to establish.
You're totally right. They have an obligation to pick up the baton that Trump is handing them, and this is the moment to do it. This is the entire Republican Party has to understand what the mandate is. And you're also right that there are people who are ideologically committed against all the evidence to programs that don't actually serve the people well. So we shouldn't be in every unnecessary foreign conflict. We shouldn't. That's at the expense of the American people. We should be working on figuring out ways to bring down the cost of living. We should be taking care of people. We should be placing people first and foremost, right at the center of our considerations and the well-being of American families and good American jobs. You're totally right about that, Connor. And we're watching one of the biggest shifts in American history. I'll just go down the list real quick with you, Connor, just because, you know all this, but here's what we know from yesterday. White non-college men, white non-college women, white people, men broadly, 45 to 64 broadly, white college men broadly, women broadly, 30 to 44 years old, 18 to 29 years old, Hispanic, Asian, black, every word I just said, every one of those categories moved dramatically in Donald Trump's direction yesterday. Dramatically. And so, Connor, you're right to point out, what are Republicans going to do, not just President Trump, but all of them, to be deserving of continuing to grow that coalition? What do you think, Connor?
Well, what's going to be interesting, though, this is going to be a hard sell for some Democrats. Republicans. I've seen it all over X.
Yeah.
Trump's taking conservatism away. But, we don't have a definition for conservatives. We can't define conservatism just like Democrats can't define what a woman is. It's a specious argument. But what's going to be really interesting on the Democrat side, I saw a little video on X a few minutes ago about Nancy Pelosi getting to it with Donna Brazile.
Yeah.
They have deep-rooted issues that they've been keeping their stuff together with Band-Aids, and it's just going to blow up on them.
I know.
And if the Republicans play this right, which I have my doubts about, they can cause the Democrat Party a lot of problems for a long time.
Yes, you're exactly right. This is a massive opportunity, and they should seize it. Thank you, Connor. That's Connor making a smart point, a lot of smart points from Huntsville. Now, I want to bring in our next guest. That's Neil Patel. He's the co-founder and publisher of The Daily Caller. He's with Tucker Carlson Network. He does it all, and he was last night at that victory party alongside President Trump. Neil, good to have you on the program, sir.
Vince, how's it going? Great to be here.
On a great day, too, to celebrate a big victory for the right. What was it like with President Trump last night? What was the energy like there?
You know, the energy was amazing. The place was obviously packed, and Tucker did his live show from Mar-a-Lago on site, and it was a blast. And you know how these things always go. Like there's a nervous energy early, and then last night, especially it kind of started. It started moving into like a very positive nervous energy, but no one wanted to come out and say, this was over. And
Yes.
then eventually people started looking at the numbers and just saying there's just no way he can't win at this point. And then the whole thing exploded. It was amazing.
I hear that President Trump was actually pretty optimistic almost throughout the entire night. Was that your read?
I've heard that. Yeah. I from his team, and he talked a few times at the various rooms at the event, and he seemed pretty positive. He wasn't letting on in the broader groups as much, but I talked to some people who were, closer with him, and were sitting with him, and he was pretty positive.
That's cool. That's very cool. So, as you read it, I mean, you're a student of all these elections and watching them closely, and kind of keeping an eye on what's happening in the United States of America. What do you think this election means? You have the biggest election yet for President Trump, popular vote victory. Does so well in the Electoral College. Crystal clear he's got a mandate. He's picking up the Senate, likely to have the House, coming in with some obligations to the American people. What do you think those are?
Well, I think the message from Trump has been the same since 2016, and it's never been received really by establishment Washington, which is people want change. The system is not working for too many Americans, and they want to fundamentally take it down and rebuild it. And this election, he was outspent, more than 2-1. It's numerous efforts to put him in jail. The most crazy press coverage I've ever seen. They went Hitler. By the end, they ran out of options, and they just started screaming Hitler. And yet he wins with not just winning all the swing states, but the popular vote, the most diverse voting electorate for any Republican that I'm ever aware of. I mean, crazy. And so I think change and I think the working class Americans rose up and said, we're done. And if you look at the voting by income and by geography and match those up together, that's clearly what happened here. And, it's amazing. And I really, really hope official Washington takes note.
I think they are taking note today. It's just a matter of how they react. You've navigated these corridors for a while. You've worked in presidential administrations. Do you think that President Trump is going to be able to be successful to blast through the establishment this time? And what kind of resistance will he encounter?
Well, I think he's still going to have a lot of resistance. These things always go in cycles, so we're going to be in a couple-day cycle of there probably will be some sort of soul-searching. My guess is usually pretty short. I really hope it's not short this time, and that people really think about what's going on in the country, because they're screaming at Washington at this point. The problem is most of institutional Washington isn't really down for a big reform agenda. So can President Trump push it through? I think it's clear he has a mandate. I think he's learned a lot of lessons and can bring in a lot of reformers this time. I think one of the most amazing things is the realignment that's going on, and some of the Democrats who joined him, and the sort of natural health people signed on,
Yes.
and they have their own agenda. And so how does official Washington react to all that? I mean, I hope well, and I hope President Trump can push it through. I think J.D. Vance, as vice president with experience in the Senate, can really help on the legislative side. But there aren't, if you look at even after last night's election, there aren't that many, even amongst the Republicans in the Senate, there aren't that many that are down for that kind of reform agenda. Most of them are establishment Washington types, very much driven by corporate interests, who will probably be hard to bring along. So I think if he picks a couple things and drives them really hard, he can get those done, and then we'll see. TBD. He's certainly got a lot of momentum right now.
It's funny. For many years, there have always been people who've wanted to reform Washington but didn't really understand enough about it to get it done. And I'm looking at the coalition of President Trump right now, And boy, he's got some heavy hitters with him. Obviously, President Trump's been president before. He's been a businessman. He was a Democrat donor for many years. Hillary Clinton went to his wedding, even as a result of those donations. You've got Elon Musk, one of the biggest federal contractors, is now with President Trump. He is going to run some sort of Department of Government Efficiency. You've got a Kennedy on board, RFK Jr. You've got Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, member of the House recently. You've got a lot of people who know what they're doing big time. And I imagine that kind of expertise is going to lead to at least some successes on this mission.
I think so. There's so much that's needed to be done, and some of those guys are just heroic. I mean, the censorship that was happening and the single-handed effort by Elon Musk to provide an outlet for actual free discussion I don't think you can overstate it. And then the realignment that we just talked about, it's not just along racial lines, but this political realignment that we're seeing, and someone like Elon Musk coming aboard is amazing. So yeah, that guy's been a dynamo at anything he's done. So I can't really say I would bet against him. On the flip side, the bureaucracy, they're really good at what they do, which is slowing anything down they don't like. They are really, really good at it. And a lot of times people from the business world come in, and it's a whole new world for them, and it is difficult to navigate.
So what kind of gamble do you think Elon Musk made here? Obviously, it paid off.
I think he put every chip in. That guy has tons of business dealings with the U.S. government. He's just got he's the richest man in the world. He's got these huge businesses.
Yes.
And he put it all on the line. Because what would have happened to him if Kamala won after what he did with Trump? I mean, I can't imagine. So that guy, what a debt of gratitude everyone owes him.
Yeah, he adopts America and then he helps save it, which is which is a wonderful story. Really
amazing.
Yeah, really, really big deal. When you talk to Republicans, do you get the sense that everybody's super pumped now and feel like that maybe there's some glimmer of hope on the horizon now with President Trump coming back and the Senate, for that matter?
People are more pumped than I've seen in years. I think there's a real sense that this, all the cliches, first of all, most cliches are true. This really was the most important election. And we couldn't handle many more years of the insanity we've been dealing with. And it is an insanity. And I think when we look back on this period, yes, and some of the wild things that were promoted, stuff about, having kids have irreversible surgeries when they're still minors. We can't let them decide to get a tattoo, but they can do that.
Yeah.
Or the defund the police insanity or open the borders insanity. There's just so many things. The censorship. I think we're going to look back on this era and think, like, what happened to people? And this election was so crucial to move beyond that. And I think it's a huge opportunity for that. And most Republicans I know are like just more pumped than I've seen in years.
And it reminded me, it restored my faith in the people of our country too. I know there's so many great people, but I didn't realize just how many. And I'm really grateful for that. I think it was a great outcome for that reason.
I was on the tour with Tucker, and we went to 20 cities, and you're meeting so many new people in every city, and it was clear that the press, just like everything that the press has been doing recently, like it bears no semblance to what you experience if you travel around and see people. Normal people were just, first of all, so happy to be finally heard and really motivated because they thought they could finally have some change, and I think it all came through, and so it did. It's just so reaffirming.
I love it. All right. Neil Patel, a good friend of mine and publisher of the Daily Caller, and was with President Trump last night. Neil, good to talk to you, sir. One of the amusing features of today, one of the many, have you noticed that all of the Democrats on television are wearing black today? All the women of The View, MSNBC guests, they're all wearing black. Because it's a funeral for them. This is such a sad day. There's people crying on television. Couldn't happen to a better group of people. Let's see here. I've got Mike calling in from Sunshine, line 1. Mike, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, thank you for taking my call. We did it. We did it. And you just a few minutes ago said that all these different demographic groups were moved towards Donald Trump. And I think Marco Rubio said it best this morning, although I'm not a pleader for him. He said, we're Americans. It doesn't matter if you're red, green, blue, white. If you believe in a border, if your country needs a border, one.
Yes.
Two, your country needs the consistent application of the rule of law, the symmetry of the rule of law.
Yeah.
If you have a particular status, the law applies to you. If you have a different status, the law doesn't apply.
Right.
That doesn't work in America. And lastly, Americans believe that there's power in the people, not in some elite, not in an oligarchy, but in the people. And so all these people that have moved towards Trump, they believe they are Americans.
Yeah, and Americans want to feed their children and not see their tax dollars sent to foreign countries while those kids are suffering.
Drill.
Yeah, drill, baby,
Drill,
drill.
baby, drill.
Yeah, it sounds like common sense is what you're referring to. I remember that. Maybe it's on its way back. Stay with us. Your call's ahead, and would you like to hear some left-wing freakouts? I have those ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news after a big victory for President Trump and company. Amazing. He's heading back to the White House. 45th, now 47th president. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Raging Cajun, James Carville, is taking an inventory of what went wrong. And now he's telling the truth. This is when you get them, some of them at least, to tell the truth. That this short little window after they lose an election, and then they'll go back to lying to you. Here he is saying what you've been saying inside of your house for months.
Okay, I think there were a couple big mistakes and something overreaching. First of all, correct. If by Biden staying in so late, we didn't have any process. We had all of this unused cordwood sitting on the sideline. Okay, and I mean really good unused. You know that if we'd have had some kind of an open process.
When he says cordwood, he's referring to other Democrats who could have taken the mantle.
It would have been much better. It might, like I said, it could have been worse, but it sure could have been a lot better.
Than Kamala. There were a lot better options, he says.
And you're correct that she didn't separate herself from Biden. But what killed the Democrats and what killed Biden was a sense of disorder. And part of the sense of disorder...
It's not just a sense. There's complete disorder in the country.
...was the unfortunate events of what I would refer to as the woke era. We got beyond it, but the image stuck in people's minds that the Democrats wanted to defund the police.
They didn't get beyond it. They never got beyond it. They were still trying to stick men in women's sports. That was the whole thing.
The empty prisons, the immigration stuff, obviously, again, a big mistake, but more importantly, it created to the perception of
mistake. It was a betrayal. It wasn't a mistake. Oops, we left the door open.
The Afghanistan withdrawal, while I think Biden was 100% right in getting out, it was disorderly. Inflation was a sign of people's disorder, that there wasn't anyone in charge. And
okay, wrong. Inflation is a product of the people who were in charge. That's what happened. It's the out of control government spending. It was Biden and Harris that made people be in a situation where they were poorer.
If we learn anything from this, is change is what wins elections. Particularly, people are pointing out, it's a 65% wrong track country, and in a 65% wrong track country, we were offering people the same track.
Exactly.
And you could say it's easy in hindsight, but the basic fundamentals of politics were not being paid attention to. And you're right, the campaign didn't, except for that one answer, which was the money question, by the way.
Which is how are you going to be different than Joe Biden?
Just say that one question, but that one question became the whole definition of the campaign. And if you answer,
and it was asked by The View, of all places. Of all places, it was The View that saved America.
99 questions really well, but you get the big one wrong, the outcome is going to be wrong. And it's easy to say.
Anyway, so they're working through their emotions right now, and there's James Carville assessing all of it. The View is having a really bad day today. All of the women of The View dressed in black today to express their sadness. And here's Sunny Hostin reverting to form immediately.
I'm surprised at the results, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country.
What a shallow way to assess an election.
And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
That's a long way of saying she thinks you're racist for not voting for Kamala Harris. That's her position. It was cultural resentment, she says, that a woman of color is being blocked. It's not because of her skin color. Donald Trump has a skin color that not a single person in the United States has, and we all voted for him. That has nothing to do with skin color. Sunny Hostin, it's her skin color that's holding her back. No, it's her awfulness. It's her track record. It's the meritocracy, actually, that held her back. She doesn't merit the gig. She failed the test, and she should have never been in the running in the first place. Sunny Hostin on the verge of tears.
And so I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class.
Oh, please.
I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare.
The whole working class just voted for Trump.
I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that.
That's just made up.
So, again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection.
Oh, she's deep down the blue anon rabbit hole.
From becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country.
She's angry that their attempts to destroy him didn't work. That's what she's upset about. And she's not alone. There's a whole bunch of them out there who are mad. We threw everything we could at him. We threw everything we could. Here's MSNBC's John Lemire this morning.
And for Donald Trump, it must be said, this is a president. He was impeached twice. He botched the handling of the pandemic.
We threw
he
that.
Faced 4 criminal cases.
We threw that.
He inspired January 6th.
We threw that.
And he won anyway. And now he will return to office with few guardrails internally, encouragement from Moscow and other.
When they say guardrails, what they mean is unconstitutional impediments to the president using the power that the Constitution gives him. That's what they're upset about. It's so funny. A lot of the whining today that we're hearing on MSNBC consists of them saying, well, now there's nobody going to be in the White House to stop him from being president. What? Like, I swear to you, I don't have the clip in front of me. I swear to you, I think I heard Andrea Mitchell earlier say that people tried to stop Trump before. It wasn't constitutional, but it was the right thing to do. Oh, it's remarkable. A lot of the racism allegations, sexism allegations are going on. There's a woman called Gretchen Carlson who at one point was on the Fox News channel. Now she's, I guess, a CNN panelist, and she was complaining today about Americans being sexist.
Look, I think this was very inspirational to young people especially. There's a lot of young women in that audience. I know there's been a lot of talk today about
Kamala's concession.
The fact that this is such a blow to the ability for women to rise to the top. We've seen Hillary Clinton lose the election, and now we've seen Kamala Harris, and they both lost to the same man, who many people believe is highly flawed. But I would like to take this moment to say that while there is inherent sexism,
oh my gosh,
I believe that there were so many other factors in this election, and so I choose not to focus on that because I don't think it helps with our ability to send the correct message to our young people that this eventually will happen.
Well, okay, so that was Newsbusters. You heard a little audio at the end there. They pulled the clip. So Gretchen Carlson, so it's funny because she's like, well, it's obviously sexism that stopped her, but I really want to dwell on that because there could be some other things worth talking about. Well, those other things are not getting much lip service. MSNBC is there today. There was a guy called W. Kamau Bell, and he said voters love racism. That's the lesson from this election.
Kamau, Donald Trump has been impeached twice. He was indicted 4 times, convicted on 34 felony counts. He's been found liable of sexual abuse.
Oh, they're just so angry.
His campaign spewed a lot of racism, misogyny, xenophobia, but voters seem to overlook all of that. I mean, just on the last part, the kind of language we heard, it was mean. Why has that seemingly become acceptable in America?
Respectfully, I don't think voters overlooked it. I think voters ran towards it. I think voters loved it. I think we have found out after much want for the country.
These people hate America. Just to be crystal clear about what they're saying.
We live in a right-wing country. This is what it is. He's going to win the popular vote, it looks like, if I'm correct in understanding that. This is the country we live in. People at this point want a strong man.
Well, then move. What country would you prefer? What country do you think might be a better situation for you and your detestable views?
Man who's a bully, and they got a strong man who's a bully. And if you have any understanding of history, you're going to find out that doesn't work well. And also, all the
if you have any understanding of history, says this completely ignorant panelist.
Immigrants you claim you want to come to this country, don't go to countries with strong man bullies. They are going to find other places to go. All the immigrants you claim you want and the ones you don't want, they will find other places to go where they don't have strong man bullies in charge.
Okay, so just emotional incontinence today on display, MSNBC. That was true of their big morning show, too. Joe Scarborough talking to Al Sharpton this morning starts saying a bunch of stuff that it could have come out of Al Sharpton's mouth, but instead Joe says it, and then Al just nods along vigorously.
I just say really quickly, too, Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men. Right. It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups. Amazing. And say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
A lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right. It's not just the white people that hate the people of color. It's the people of color who hate the people of color.
And with other Hispanics. You've got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men. I mean, misogynist things. So you're absolutely right. It's not simplistic, and we've got to have real, honest conversations.
There you go. Famous bigot Al Sharpton is saying that it's black men who are bigoted. He's attacking them there on MSNBC. So you think they're learning the right lesson from all of this? Occasionally, someone delivers the right lesson. It's on a very rare occasion. CNN's Scott Jennings has been a standout in this entire election. Hasn't he? He's been really good. I've seen some people, I guess I didn't see it. Corey told me this, but I had the same thought. Corey says to me earlier today, he goes, you know who some people are suggesting for White House press secretary? And I said, don't say it. Wait a second. Is it Scott Jennings at CNN? And he said, yeah, it's Scott Jennings. And I was like, hey, he goes, you saw that? No, I didn't see it. I was thinking it though, because boy, this guy, the way he delivers messages. Listen to what he said last night as the vote was coming in.
This is a mandate. He's won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up. when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Yeah, a gentle smack in the face to the people he was sitting on that panel with. Scott Jennings with a good assessment of how that vote went last night. It's very basic. People are tired of being treated like crap, and they'd like their lives to improve. Makes sense to me. We have a podcast, in other words. Please subscribe to it. It's a big deal to me, and I think you'll enjoy it. You can go back and listen to some of the great guests we've had today. Michael Watley, Mike Davis, Neil Patel. All wonderful guests giving us a lot of insights into what we just saw happen and what comes next. Let's go to the phones now. Our buddy Phil from Fredericksburg is calling in on line one. Phil, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, I just want to say you and Corey and Dan Bongino and Chris Plant and Larry and Mark Levin and every man and woman that works at WMAL should take a victory lap for what you did here, because you were very important in combating the 24-hour lies that were told about Donald Trump and informing the American people to make the right decision. WMAL is a lighthouse of truth in a sea of darkness. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for what you do and what all of you there at WMAL do every day for the American people. Thank you.
Phil, you're so sweet for saying that. And you know something? I said not too long ago that when they put Kamala Harris in, this was a test of the media's ability, the legacy media's ability to rig this election. And that test for them has failed, which means for us, it's been a success. The truth has prevailed. It's broken through. You got to thank Elon Musk for his role on social media for making that happen, and for Americans everywhere like Phil just getting the truth out to their friends and family. A big victory for President Trump. It's important to get that information out there. The real work is ahead. It's okay to celebrate tonight. I know everyone's got weekend parties planned. Have them. Enjoy them. You deserve it. Up next here on WMAL, you don't want to miss the great one, Mark Levin.